Hey guys, it's Michelle from Cozyegg. Thanks for joining me today. This is, I don't know what episode. You know, I don't know. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2019, and we are in the midst of Sampler September. So, if you are a new viewer to my channel, thanks for checking me out. I hope that you enjoy the video and subscribe. If you are returning, thanks so much for coming back, and let's get started. So, since we met last, I had my birthday, and I had a good day, had an enjoyable day. Then, so my birthday was, I think I recorded on the 21st, which I think was a Wednesday. My birthday was on Thursday. And then on Friday, I went to a quilting retreat. So I went to my 3-day in town with some friends quilting retreat at best little retreat center in Texas, which is a great place to go. They have good light, they have design walls, you get lots of room to yourself, etc. So we did that, and so I thought I'd start today by showing you kind of a little bit of what I worked on quilting wise. And my allergies are kicking my ass, so I apologize up front for any coughing or sniffling. It's just been, you know, one of those summers. So the first thing that I did was, you know, in the interest of trying to cut down on the amount of whips that I have and look at things that are close to being done, like 75% or more close to being done. When I was looking through, you know, I went through all of my stitching stuff, I went through all my quilting stuff, and when I went through my quilting stuff, one of the things that I found was a Christmas table runner that I had started several years ago, and I, you know, cut it, pieced it, quilted it, like, you know, within a few days, and then there it sat. So all it needed was binding. So I picked it up and brought it with me, and that was the first thing I worked on. So I cut all of my binding strips, got them machine sewed on, and then I was like, great, all that I need now is I need to sit down and hand sew the binding to the back. And my sweet friend said, my mom is in need of some handwork to do. Would you like me to take that home with you? And she can do the binding, the hand sewing part. And I was like, sold. So she took it home to her mom Friday night and brought it back to me Sunday morning. How's that for service? And it gave Mom something to do. So I present to you my finished Christmas table runner. It is not super exciting, pretty simple. You may remember my Kate Spain Christmas quilt that I put up here during the holidays that has reds and turquoises and greens. That's really pretty, that I just absolutely love. I decided I wanted a table runner that would kind of work with that quilt. So I used some Kate Spain fabric, and I wanted to just have, you know, since that quilt has so much going on with it, I thought I'm just going to use this kind of ice blue and cream poinsettia fabric with some tone on tone, white on white little snowflakes. I don't think the snowflakes are Kate Spain, but I don't remember. but the blue is definitely. And then, and I used the same fabric that I used here for the binding. Easy peasy. And then I just kind of did some straight line quilting across. On the back side, I used some more Kate Spade. This may jog your memory because it's these colors. I used some more Kate Spade fabric that I had, so that really this can work either way. I can have, you know, fun, whimsical, or a little more toned down. So I'm so happy to have this finished. I mean, like, seriously, why was this sitting in my stash for at least 2 years, and all it needed was the binding? I cannot answer that question. So it's all done, and on the ends, I just did, you know, a pointed end, super simple, and you know, easy enough to figure out how to do that. I just basically cut it on an angle. So I figured out where the middle was, cut it on an angle, done. So this is now finished. Yay. And I'm thrilled to have it done. So thanks to Mary's mom, I have a fully finished object. The next thing that I worked on is my Marcel Medallion, and this is another quilt. I didn't bring it in here to show you because frankly it's too big for me to even attempt to show you in here. I will insert some photos though. But so my Marcel Medallion, you may recall I started years ago. It's a medallion quilt, meaning that you have a center block and then you build out from there with a variety of borders. So I have the blinds open, and I'm always intrigued by what I see when I do that. One of my neighbors has some dachshunds. I think 2 or 3 of them. She is out walking them. One of them is in a stroller. That's what caught my eye. Anyway, so my Marcel Medallion, I started several years ago, and I am at the point that I have 2 borders left to go. One of those is a border that has plus blocks that are pieced all the way around with cornerstones, and then the last border is a solid fabric with cornerstones. That's all it's missing. So I decided the reason that it's been sitting for so long is because I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do for the plus blocks or for the solid border, but the plus blocks were really more the issue. I couldn't really decide what color I wanted to do. I had originally leaned toward doing black and white or like a charcoal and white, but then I wasn't sure about that. So I thought, you know what? I think that this weekend is the perfect weekend for me to take it with me. I can take, you know, my bucket of modern fabrics that I'm pulling from and put it up on the design wall and look at it and see if I can figure out, you know, try some different fabrics, see if I can figure out what will work, what won't work, and maybe make some decisions. Ideally, I would love to have, you know, I wanted to finish it, but I thought if I can at least move it forward a step, that will get me unstuck, because that's why it's been sitting. So I thought, great, I'm going to take it, I'll look at it, maybe get some input from my compadres, and we'll go from there. So I played around with my blocks, with my fabrics. I pulled some different things, tried some different things. Ultimately, I decided that doing a black and white or a charcoal and white border was going to be too stark contrast from the rest of the quilt. And because I was on the outer borders, I decided I really wanted to do something that would sort of pick up the colors from the center of the quilt and repeat those. So pulled some fabrics, and I'm just going to go ahead and insert a couple of photos here. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So I had that, that kind of charcoal gray border that has some half circle shapes in it. That's an Allison Glass print. I decided that I wanted to pull out the warm tones in that, as well as to pull out the red and the yellow that are in that star center block. So I pulled some fabrics. I even pulled some kind of poison green fabric as well, so that it didn't get too sugary. So I did that and started working on it, and love how it's turning out. I'm very happy with it. There was a moment when I got kind of, you know, halfway into those plus blocks that I started going, I don't know about this. But it was kind of at the end of the day, and I was sort of, you know, over it at that point. So I went home, I came back the next morning, looked at it, you know, because you can leave your stuff overnight. So I left it up on the design wall. I came in and looked at it from across the room, and I was like, no, I think I love this. I think I'm very happy with it. So I managed to get all but I think 4 of the plus blocks pieced and ready to go. I still need to arrange them. So it alternates a plus block and then a solid kind of strip, like 2.5 inch strip, or it could have been 3.5 inch, you know, a good size wide strip. I still need to arrange them. So I've got them in the photo. You can see that I've got them just sort of up there, because I was trying to play with color and make sure that I had a good kind of sprinkling of different shades and fabrics. They still need to be arranged, but I need to get those last 4 done. And I made a decision about the fabric that I want to use for the outer border. I'm a little hesitant about it because it is part of a line of fabric that I have a very limited amount of, and I wanted to do something with that line altogether. But it was really the perfect fabric. And I love it dearly. So at the risk of not having it to use with the rest of the fabrics in that line, I'm gonna go ahead and use it for my outer border. I believe that I have enough. I'm gonna figure that out before I cut it. So, but it really is the perfect fabric. And I think on one of the photos, I have it kind of pinned up there outside of the plus block so that you can kind of see what that looks like. So anyway, I feel really good about the progress that I made. I obviously, you know, didn't get my borders assembled. I didn't get the quilt top finished, but I was able to move it a step forward and get unstuck, that was really my ultimate goal, which was huge because it's been sitting for a while. But I really want to work on getting some of my quilt whips finished rather than starting something new. So it felt really good to be working on that again. And I did work a little bit on my Anchors Away quilt. I'm just sort of piecing, you know, strips and 2-inch squares, so it's not super exciting, but I worked on that a little bit too. So it felt really good to do that, and I was really glad that I was able to do it. And the other thing, I did work on this a little bit as well, my Hex on the Beach. So I showed you, I think the last time I showed you, I was working on assembling, or I was working on adding row 9, and I now have row 9 added. So there it is with row 9 completely on. Very happy with it. So there are 40 rows to this quilt, and you can see I've taken the papers out except for on the edges. So which makes it a little easier to handle. So there are 40 rows in this quilt. I just sewed on row 9, so one more row and I will be a quarter of the way done. And I am, you know, I have still been trying to work on this. I haven't since the quilt retreat. Yeah, I have, because I finished it after that. Since I sewed on row 9 and got that finished, I have not picked it back up. But my ultimate goal is to work on this 30 minutes a day to try to move this forward. Because obviously it's hand sewing, so it's going to take me a little while to get all of that done. Because when I sit down to, you know, to work on something at night, I normally just want to stitch. I don't normally want to work on this, but this is really good if I want something that doesn't require me counting or concentrating or whatever. It's a little bit mindless, which sometimes that's what I need. So that is what I worked on quilt-wise, and I'm very happy about the progress that I made. So let's talk about stitching, shall we? So I finished Anniversaries of the Heart, which I showed you last time, and I finished it right in time so that I could have a new start for my birthday. And I think I talked last time that I was planning on starting Game of Swans, and I did that. So here is Game of Swans. This is by Long Dog. That's what it looks like. And her cover photos, I believe, now if this is wrong, excuse me, I believe these cover photos are like computer generated, like digitized. It is not a photo of actual stitching, I don't think. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it looks to me like it's digitized. So it is hard to tell from this photo digital thing, how bright this piece is. I mean, when I look at this, I see the grays, I see the reds, I see the pinks, and the sort of, you know, coral, pinky color, and some green, obviously. That's what I see. These are most of the threads. So, and I say most, I think there are, I think I've got 2 or 3 more that would not fit on here. There's also a purple and and this Gentle Art Hollyberry. So I'll just hold these up too. So these are the threads. They're all Gentle Arts. They're gorgeous. But this does not translate to this in my head. So I think if you see, you know, particularly, obviously the long dogs that are monochromatic, whatever. But for the ones that are not monochromatic, I think you really have to see somebody stitching them to realize how gorgeous they are. So these are the threads, and the fabric that I'm using is a Color and Cotton 40 count, and the color is called Luna, and it is impossible to photograph because the fabric, when you see it in person, in sunlight, it is stunning. And that's just hard to get across in a photo for me. So here, it's kind of a, I mean, it's sort of a luminous fabric. It's sort of gray, but not really. But it's called Luna, which I think is a fitting name. But this is my start. This is how much I got done. This is the center of the piece. And just, I mean, look how pretty that is. I mean, it's just, it's beautiful. And it was just an absolute joy to stitch on. So, wrong way. Absolute joy to stitch on. But obviously you can see that this piece is going to be much larger, but look how pretty. Just stunning. And I enjoyed every minute of stitching on this. I'm so happy that even though I'm really focusing on finishing things up and not starting new things, I am glad that I allowed myself a new start, because this is one of the things that made my birthday really enjoyable, because I had this new piece. And typically I struggle with new starts. I don't really love starting new things because, you know, I seem to always have sort of a false start. Like I start in the wrong place, or I start with the wrong color, or I make a mistake right off the bat, or whatever. But that did not happen with this. And I had all of the threads in my stash with the exception of 3. I actually went on my birthday and purchased the other 3 that I needed from my local needle workshop, and good to go. So I think it was just meant to be. So the fabric and the chart were a birthday gift, as well as the flamingo bag, and the thread keeper was also a gift for my birthday. So super thrilled with that. And so I worked on this from my birthday, which was on the 22nd, through the end of the month, because I really wanted to participate in Sampler September. So I set this aside. I will be coming back to it for sure. So I worked on that, and then the next thing, so on the 1st of September, I decided to get out, and this is in my Stitch All the Things Alice in Wonderland bag, which is beautiful. I decided to work on the 3 Things sampler because it had been calling my name. Now, obviously, this is not something that's super close to being done, but it had just been calling to me from the closet. So I decided to get it out and work on it. So I started this as a stitch along with Emily, Eclectic Possessions, and Tracy P. And I think a couple other folks started with us. Trisha? No, Trisha was doing the Black Cat sampler. I don't remember. Anyway, of course, Emily has like finished and framed hers, and it's like been at her house since they moved in. Almost. Obviously mine is not. So, so here's mine. This is the 3 Things sampler by Maura, Blackburn, and this is, I believe, a 36 count vintage light exemplar. It looks and feels like vintage exemplar, so that's my guess. It was not marked, and I think that this was for something, and I don't know what it was for. At some point, I'll figure that out. I have a sneaky suspicion that this was for a most noble pursuit, which I never started, so I think that's what this may have been for. So here's where I'm at, and if you are familiar with this piece, you will see that mine looks very different. So the colors in the original sampler are rather muted. Some of them I would go so far as to say are pastel. In fact, I think I have some of the original colors pulled. I do, but that's gonna be kind of hard to see. Anyway, I didn't love the colors in the original, which is why I had never really stitched it, and it had been in my stash, excuse me, forever. But I got this out and I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna tweak the colors and change them as I go, and so that's what I've been doing. So I have darkened it up a little bit so that it's not quite so pastel, and I have brightened it up a little bit. So and I'm using some overdyes, some DMCs. I'm just sort of picking and choosing, and I'm really loving how it's looking. These 2 big flowers up here that are missing, I have not decided what color to do them. They are, in the original, they are like a lavender color or a dusty pink color. I don't remember. This one, I think, is the called for colors. This one, that lighter blue, is actually the darker shade that's called for. So I used it for my lighter and then went a shade darker. And I like how that looks much better. So I haven't decided what color to do those top flowers, so I just skipped them for now. So when I picked this up, I had started on the little arch for the deer. I just had like the green vine done. So I worked some more on that. I did the flowers and stitched the deer. And in the original, the flowers are like purple and yellow and that dusty blue. And I was like, oh. So I basically just did mine 2 different shades. I used the red that I used here in these berries, that I also used up here. And I used the pink that is in my border flowers. And I decided that it's mostly the red, but then I popped in a couple of pink flowers too. So I got the deer stitched. Love him. So I just need to do the rest of that archway and then I can kind of move on. I was trying to get like this page, you know, kind of finished other than those 2 flowers, so that then I can kind of move over to the other half and finish the verse and everything. So I didn't really stop with the page. I stopped where I ran out of Q-snap. So, but I'm really happy with it. I love it. It is sometimes, it takes a little bit of brain power to think about and choose colors. But this was calling to me because it just sort of felt like a September sampler. So worked on that and enjoyed it very much. But then what called to me was my crown bird. So crown bird is living in my bag from Socks for Mom. Crown bird is the sampler that Paulette from Plum Street designed for my guild. And this has now been released, but so it is available now, but it was designed for our guild. And so I started this in January as a stitch along with Becky, Socks for Mom, and Rachel, Stitch and Be Well, Mrs. Vensel. We started this in January together with the plan that we would have it completed by September 21st when Paulette comes back to teach at our guild. So I worked on this. I started it in January and I was not super happy with it at the beginning. Like I was sort of fighting with my threads and I was having a lot of new start angst. So I set it aside. I did come back to it and worked on it for some School of Magical Stitches homework assignments and got some more done on it, fell in love with it. But then of course I was, you know, magical stitching. So it kind of rolled in and rolled out. So I picked this up. I picked it back up like the 2nd of September. So like I worked on 3 things, I think 2 nights. After I finished that deer, that same night, I picked this up to work on. And I thought, I probably have no hope in hell of getting it done by the 21st, but I'm gonna give it a good try. So I picked it up and I have been working on that for Sampler September monogamously. I've not worked on anything else since the 2nd. And I have really been enjoying it. So this is stitched on, well, let me show you where I'm at. And just excuse all of my thread that I have stashed in my grime guard. I need a Bitsy Bob. I just stash it in here. So I've been working on this since the 2nd. This is on 36 count Vintage Meadow Rue by Lakeside. I had a little brain fart. And this is done in NPI and Belsois silks. So I'm really happy with it, and I love how it's looking. So since I picked it up, I have finished this border. You may recall that when I originally started this, I was having some angst about the color of the crowns. And what I have determined is that the gold that we're using, because it's a variegated Belsois, in some cases it's very light, and then in other cases it's darker. So I just decided to stick with it and let it do what it wants to do. Because you can see in the chimney here and in this vase, you know, it's really the perfect shade. So I finished this border. I had, I probably had to here done. And I ripped out this crown that I stitched in a different silk and stitched it in, and then finished down here on this border. I did this crown. I did this crown. I had the red of this berry basket, the red on the berry stitched. I did the 2 colors of pink. I stitched the greenery and stitched the basket itself. I stitched this motif. I had started on these flowers, so I finished those and did their stems and did the urn here. And then I have started on the crown bird. Actually sits on these little intermingled circles, interlaced circles. He sits up here, and that's, you know, kind of the center of the sampler. So I've got like 2 more that I really need to put in there, but I ran out of Q-snap space, so I'll have to wait till I scoot over. And then I've started on the house. So I think I've made good progress. Again, I've got, you know, a little less than 2 weeks. I don't know that I'm gonna make it, but I'm gonna keep working on it as long as I'm enjoying it. And, you know, it is what it is. So, also, the verse that's up here, I've been kind of back and forth about whether or not I want to use the verse. And the way that she laid it out, it kind of looks like it's two different quotes or verses. It is actually one continuous verse. So there is this that's here, and then it continues on here. And I decided that I think I want to change it, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to change it to. But then as I was stitching the other night, I had kind of an epiphany and came across a Shakespeare quote that I think would be absolutely perfect. So I need to sit down and chart it out and see how it fits. Obviously, if it's too big, I can have some of it, you know, up here in this cartouche and then finished down below, like the, you know, original design was done. Or if it fits all up here, then I can decide what to do over in this area. But I need to sit down and chart that out and figure that out. So, but I'm really enjoying it. It's been fun to stitch on. So, and I'm kind of working, this is basically like page 1 and 3 that I'm working on, because they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm basically working on pages 1 and 3. And I figured I need to get started with the fill-in on this house because I think that's going to take a good chunk of time. And then I can kind of alternate with bringing this border across and finishing out the outline of this. And then of course the words once I figure that out. So, so that's what I've been working on. And we will see if I make my deadline of the 21st. Paulette is going to be, she has designed a piece for us. We are actually having our workshop at the Dallas Zoo, and she has designed a zoo themed piece for us. So I'm super excited about it. None of us have seen it. But she said that it's maybe one of her most favorite things that she's ever designed. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it will be good to see her again. So, so that's what I've been working on. Those are my whips. And I thought I would talk a little bit about Dark October, since that is coming, and it will I probably won't record again before then. I might, but probably not. So, and Dark 13 stitching is this coming Friday. It is Friday the 13th. It is a full moon, and it is Dark 13 stitching. It's the full harvest moon, which I have learned is the full moon in September or October, whichever one is closest to the equinox, is also called the harvest moon. So this year it is the September full moon, which is the harvest moon. So that is going to be on the 13th, and apparently the next time that it will be a full moon on Friday the 13th is in like 2049. So make use of it. I don't know that I'm going to do something for Dark 13 stitching, since I'm trying to get this piece moved along as much as I can. We'll see. And I guess I should probably say that I did jump back into, with September, I did jump back into magical stitches. I had taken a little sabbatical, but I have jumped back in, and and I have been able to use Crown Bird and 3 things I was able to use for homework. I actually got my homework for last week finished really quickly. The week before, was it the week before? No, that was the first week. So I got homework done pretty quickly. I've already completed 2 extra credit assignments, and I'm about 40 stitches away from completing a 3rd, all with Crown Bird. So it's kind of fun to be sort of back in the mix with that. So Dark October stitching. So I talked about it a little bit last time. 24 hours of cross stitch will be the first weekend of October. So we're combining that with Jen's 24-hour marathon and Dark October stitching. Dark October stitching takes place the whole month of October. And you may recall, like the past couple of years that we've been doing Dark October stitching, I have treated it basically like my Stitch Mania. So I tend to start several things. I tend to work on a bunch of things. And I usually work on something for 2 nights and then switch to a new project. That has kind of been my MO for Dark October. This year, I think I'm going to take a different tactic. I'm kind of feeling drawn to picking 1 project or 2 projects, but I'm really kind of leaning towards 1 and just focusing on it for the whole month. So my initial thought was in my Lady Jeanette bag, which you have not seen in a while. My initial thought is to work on my Halloween neighborhood. This is on my Stitch 9, and I would really like to have this finished this year. So I thought, you know, it might be a great opportunity to focus on this and to try to get it finished. What that means, though, is that I'm going to have to spend a good amount of time charting out the rest of the things that I want to go in here. I've started that process. I know, like, the rest of the houses that I want to put in here, and I'm starting to do some of the fill-in stuff, but I'm not close. I'll put it that way. So, and I'm working on I'm over here on this side. The last time I worked on this, which was months ago, I'm working on this house right here. Putting that in. So, I'd really like to have this finished this year, which is why I put it on my Stitch 9. I think this would be kind of a fun thing to work on for Dark October because there is so much variety in it that I don't think I would get bored with it. But really, I think the downside is I have a lot of charting to do to get this figured out. And if I'm going to spend time charting, I should really be charting my own designs. So that is one option. And that was really what I was leaning towards, was just working on that. When I was digging this out, I came across something else that is also on my Stitch 9 that would not require any charting, that I would also be super happy to work on for the month of October. And so that is in my Sugar Skull Mama Joan bag. And that is Blackened Sky. So here is where I'm at on this. So I have finished blocks 1 and 2, and I've started on block 3. Now, I will admit to you, I'm not super happy with how block 3 is looking. The silk for it, I'm using the Called For Pure Palette Silks. The silk for it has a lot of, like when you look at it in the skein, it looks fine. But when you look at it one strand at a time, so here's the thread. When you look at it one strand at a time, there is actually a lot of white in it, or very, very light colored parts. I had a piece here just a second ago. Oh, here it is. And it's just not translating well on my fabric, I don't think. And because this is an alphabet and it's not like solid bits of color, you know, areas of color, I feel like I'm kind of losing the detail because it's so light. So I am tempted to, I mean, it's beautiful, right? I'm tempted to look to see if I can find something in my stash that might be a touch darker. I'm not really sure what to do. Maybe I need to start from the other end of the skein and see if that makes any difference. I don't know. But, you know, I thought working on this for Dark October might just be the perfect thing. So I'm just kind of not feeling switching around to a bunch of different projects. You know, that's kind of what got me burnt out on Magical Stitches. I do have some smaller pieces that are closer to being finished that I could certainly use during Dark October, and maybe I will, you know, slot them in. I've got my Jinx piece. I've got my Moon Phases piece. Either one of those I could easily, you know, swap in and maybe finish. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for Dark October. You know, normally I'm kind of super quiet about what my plans are for Dark October, but I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there that that's what I think I'm gonna do. So I would love to hear what your Dark October plans are. I hope you guys are all going to be joining us. I think it's a great change from Sampler September to go right into Dark October stitching. So yeah. All right, so that's Dark October. I'm gonna keep working on my crown bird. And so then I had a little bit of stash enhancement I thought I would share. So I shared some birthday gifts that I had last time. I had a couple more to share. One of them is, I haven't even taken it out of the package because I wanted to show you how cute it was in the package. This is a little pin cushion from Lady Creates called Boo and Squeaks. And it was just packaged up in here so adorably that I just wanted to wait to open it so I can show you guys. So let me take it out of the package so that you can really see it, because it is really darling. So it is, it's in this little votive holder, and it has felt on the bottom. It's got this gingham ribbon that kind of holds everything together, but that's, you know, decorative. And then on the inside, she has wool felt that she's kind of wrapped in a spiral. And then on top of that is like a wool felt ball. It's like black with orange spots. And then she's got these darling pins. So there's this little pumpkin, and then these 3 pins that are, you know, orange and gold and black. So cute. So this was a birthday gift from a friend. Really darling. And packaged really beautifully as well. And then another gift I received is this Love You More Studio Co. bag. This is the larger size bag. I have, my other one that I have is smaller than this. This is a really nice size. And of course it's in Tula Pink, Pinkerville fabric. This is the fabric that I made Sylvia's project bag out of. I did mine in the blue colorway and did Sylvia's in the pink colorway, so I'm happy to have my own pink unicorn now. It's just really, really pretty. Obviously these are so well made. And then on the inside, it has this sort of fan pattern. Super cute. So I was super, super happy to have this. And then, as if it couldn't get any better, inside was this. So this is Blackbird Designs Raven Bewitched. And you may recall me talking about this piece a million years ago, because when I saw it, and even looking at the chart photo, it looks like it is all black and like a charcoal gray, right? That's what it looks like. I saw one of these stitched in person at my L&S. They were pinning it to frame it, and I was shocked when I saw it because of the colors in it. And I was like, are those the called for colors? And she didn't know. So I went searching online to see if I could figure out what the called for colors were. Figured it out and decided to use this colorway for my casting a spell piece that goes in that wooden box. So the colors of this, it calls for, I mean, they're all sort of muted, but it's not just gray and charcoal. So it's got one Crescent Colors or Classic Colorworks or whatever we're calling it, hickory sticks. The rest are Gentle Arts. Cherry Bark, which is like one of my favorite colors, Espresso Bean, Garden Gate, Old Purple Paint. Now, Old Purple Paint that's purple like it used to be and not brown like it is now. Old Purple Paint, Raven, and Wood Trail. So it's got some purple in it, it's got that cherry bark in it, some browns, some grays, and then that black raven. So pretty. So pretty. So now, having seen this in person, I'm definitely stitching this. I just love it. So, birthday to me, super excited. And it fits perfectly in this sleeve, in this size sleeve. So, then my sweet friend, Rachel, Stitch and Be Well, Mrs. Vinsel, recently went to England, and she brought me back a couple of sweet gifts. So this is from the Royal School of Needlework, and this is a card that is a Tudor rose that is done in gold work, metal threads and silk. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. So she brought me this beautiful card of this Tudor rose, since we're in the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. And then also she had some a package of bookmarks, and I got to choose which one I wanted. And so the one that I chose has this gorgeous antique map on it, because you know how I love maps. Look at that shit. So I had to have the one with the map on it. I love it. So fun gifts from England. And then, as kind of my birthday gift to myself, which I had intended to purchase back in May and forgot about it, I got hats, Hands Across the Sea, Lucy Navier, 1818. This was the 2019 Queen of the May. And, you know, when I first saw it, I fell in love with it. I'm sure there were a bunch of people that were disappointed with it, because there is so much specialty stitching in here, particularly this tree, which is done all in French knots. And there is some stem stitch, you know, kind of freehand embroidery. After a while, I sort of started talking myself out of it, like, oh, well, but then when I saw it again, and when I had it in my hands, I'm now like super obsessed with it, and really want to stitch this. So, and so this chart, it's a 60-page booklet. And this is only the second hats chart that I have ever purchased. The other one was their Queen of the May last year, Sarah Brazier. So it comes with the little thread legend bookmark, which is fun. But just to give you an idea of how beautiful and well done these charts are, and I'm not usually a fan of colored charts, except when I'm doing a chatelaine, because the chatelaines tend to be more complex, and so I think it helps to have it in color. But I'm just going to show you a couple of things, if I can find a good example. I'll show you this one back here. So, I mean, it's all done in color. It's blown up really big so that you can see the detail. You're not like trying to squint and figure it out. She has close-up photos of all the different areas so that you can see exactly what you're trying to do. All these blow-ups correspond to, you know, specific parts on the chart. Look at this angel, which I had never even noticed this angel before until I saw this picture. That angel is right here. So I'm just, you know, I'm really impressed with the quality of this chart. It was $40, which, you know, is a lot for a chart, but the Hawk Run Hollow charts are $36. And it's not, you know, a ginormous booklet with all of this extra, you know, stuff in it. So anyway, and there's a really nice photo of her in the center. So yeah, this was basically my birthday gift to myself. So very excited about that. And I've been sort of dug into looking at pictures of people's whips and all sorts of things on that today. So, all right, well, I think that's all that I have to share with you. And I hope that you guys are enjoying Sampler September. Veronica Senorita Stitches is also doing September Sampler Soiree for those of you that are working on reproduction samplers. That is another hashtag to use. So yeah, I'm enjoying my crown bird. I will keep going on that and see how far I can get before the 21st. I have my workshop with Paulette, which I'm very excited about. And then we'll be into Dark October. So thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, if you're new, I appreciate you checking me out. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. I appreciate all the subscribes, likes, comments, etc. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I mean, this is such an amazing community, and I get so inspired by so many others, and I look forward to seeing what else is up your sleeves. So have a great stitching month, and we will see you again for Dark October. Thanks, guys. Bye.